What's up, everyone? Welcome back to PPC Unfiltered. And this is a series where we talk about the stuff that you probably didn't Google. And I just happen to be on your feed running this video only on YouTube, not really promoting it. So I keep thinking that you are really lucky if your algorithm dropped you off in this feed. It must be fate. So today we're going to dive deep into the zero-click phenomenon. And it's something that I just wrote about in Search Engine Land, so it's really fresh on my mind. So I just really want to articulate this for you. And what a zero-click phenomenon is it's something that's constantly talked about on the SEO side. And if you listen to SEOs are always going crazy, probably more than paid search friends on this side of the aisle. But really what they're talking about is the fact that Google is taking information and queries. And what's happening is they're putting the results right there at the top of the page so that no one has to click on and get any more information than what's shown right there in that AI overview. And it really obviously frustrates SEO folks because they want traffic to go to their website. And so it really irritates them. Now, to be fair, what I'm noticing and I've seen is Google is sourcing them. So they put a little link, like a little sort of link icon, like the chain. But what ends up happening is they're just not very prominent. You know, the counter argument that Google has is they're saying, well, that's a super click, right? So if somebody reads the AI overview and then they want to dive deeper into the source, they can click that. And frankly, I do agree. I think if you've hidden something as much as Google has and a user goes on to click that, then obviously it is a little bit of a better click because the person has to be super intent to find something that's hidden. We are on the paid side. And so today I want to talk about what it means for your paid search campaigns. And I'm going to link to the article that I wrote in Search Engine Land about it because it's really fresh on my mind. And I feel like this was one of those articles that as I was reading it, I really started to think about things a little bit differently. So again, this is no longer an SEO thing. This is really at this point a we problem because the paid ads are definitely going to be impacted as well. And so to demonstrate this issue, first, what I had to do, again, this was referenced in the article, is I had to find a query. And the query had to be sort of that perfect mix. It had to be a question and it had to have commercial intent for me to trigger what I needed to trigger to talk about this. So for example, the one that I used would be best running shoes for low arches. I am extremely flat-footed. It's something I've learned over the years. And so I want my running shoe to be the best possible running shoe for low arches. And so I used a more technical term in the article. I can't remember what I said, but basically this term, best running shoes for low arches, typically would have matched to like a phrase match, best running shoes, or, if you are abroad today, best running shoes for low arches is absolutely going to match to a broad match. But the long story short is this is a informational long tail query with commercial intent. And so the user knows they have a problem, right? They want running shoes. They're ready to buy a solution, but they need more information. They need what's the best one for this particular problem. And so if you look at the search engine results page, and I linked it, I have a screenshot for it in my article, and I definitely encourage you to read that too. At the top, you end up getting this big, long AI overview with recommendations. It gives you a citation link to a website. It recommends a couple products, but then it also has products in the product feed, which are probably coming from a Performance Max campaign, possibly a shopping campaign. And you really do have to scroll. On my screen, I made it a little bit bigger in the screenshot. If you're running a window that's a little bit smaller, you have to scroll, but that paid ad is down there. It's down there after you have the whole AI overview with the link and the suggestions. And so really what it is it's making our paid listing hard. It's not quite as hard as the SEO one, but it's still down there. And so how does this affect us? Well, the first major impact that you have to think about is that expected click-through rate, which is going to take a hit, especially if when you think about expected click-through rate, it's on that broad term. So this query and these research queries that are now going to have a commercial side to them are now monetized, and that expected click-through rate will go down. And so if collectively your expected click-through rate goes down, then guess what? Your inevitable result is going to be a lower quality score. And when your quality score drops, your cost per click is going to rise. Google is going to turn that up because it doesn't look as relevant to them. And that is happening across the board. And so essentially Google is going to make us pay more to get in front of fewer eyes. And so if you want to dive deeper into quality score, I will link a video as well for this. I will make another video about this. But the fact of the matter is if your ad isn't getting all those eyes and those clicks, we're going to be paying more, whether you look at it as paying more or being reduced. If you get the click, that's how it's going to pan out. So here's the counter argument. And I'm going to take the side of Google. And, I take what Google says, I take my experience, and I try to come up with what I think. And I actually, in this case, do side with Google. So Google is making the argument that query, right, that query about the best running shoes for low arches is much more intentional and much more valuable at this point in time. And when you think about it, the user, by the time they do click on your paid ad, just like the SEO ad, they've already seen the AI answer, they've scrolled past, they've gotten to your ad, and they've done sort of that pre-research right there on the SERP. And so if they still click on your ad, that ad is golden, right? It's better. It's a high value prospect. And so really that comes back and does justify Google's decision to charge more. It shifts the pressure onto us as paid marketers. And how is our ad copy going to reflect that you are an information provider, right? So you're looking as being the most relevant information provider on the SERP and the seller at the same time, and acknowledging that the user's research and position your ad essentially as that final, highly intentional solution. And so really it's respecting the user and capitalizing on what Google was saying here. So ultimately, when you think about it, in some ways, to be fair, we can't just be all roses and rainbows. It could just be another way for Google to extract more money, especially for these long tail queries that maybe weren't as valuable in the past. And with Google and advertisers, it's always going to be this push-pull. They're going to change the rules and we have to figure out how to adapt. And so I encourage you really to read this full article and start thinking about this because we really need to start matching these user behaviors and figure out how that we can respond appropriately in our ad copy because Google has made these queries a lot more intentional than they might have been basically in the old days. I don't think they're going to go back and revisit it. We as marketers are going to need to adapt to this new environment. So I want to know what your thoughts. Let me know in the comments, and I really appreciate you watching. And thank you very much for listening to another quick episode of the PPC Unfiltered. I'm glad you were lucky enough to see this video. I'm happy you're here, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.